Hey guys, and happy Wednesday. Today is May 20th. This is for Math 1. And today we're looking at writing an equation given a situation with compound interest. And again, this should seem very familiar. We're taking very small steps. Some of this should seem be getting easier to you. Okay, so let's look at our first example here. Okay, so it says you deposit $1,000 in a savings account. The account earns 3% interest compounded annually. So keywords, obviously we can see that it says it's compounded. So compounded means I'm going to be using my exponential equation, right? So looking for our keywords here. So y equals a times b to the x. Okay. Second thing I notice is that it says I deposited $1,000. So depositing $1,000, that means that's where I'm starting. So that means that my a value is going to be 1,000. Okay. I also notice that it says the account earns 3%. Earning 3%, that's my B value. Remember, we start with our original 100%. That's the original. And I'm earning, so that's adding on 3%. So 100 plus 3% is 103%. And 103% as a decimal, remember we read as a fraction first. So 103 over 100. And when you divide that, you get 1.03. So that's my B value. And then I just substituted in y equals a to b to the x. Y equals a was 1,000. B is 1.03 to the x. And remember, I just use parentheses instead of the dot because I don't like having the two dots there. It looks a little weird. Okay, so there's my equation. Okay, let's look at another one just to practice here. We're just getting some practice, okay? Same thing. So it says Barbara gets a $10,000 car loan with 7% compound annual interest. Okay, so 7% compound annual interest. So first thing we notice says compounded. So that means that we're using our y equals a times b to the x. And then it says that the initial car loan was $10,000. So then that's my A value. And then it says it was compounded at a 7% annual interest rate. Okay, so I start with my original 100%. And since it's interest is another keyword. Interest means that it's money that's getting added on that you're going to have to pay. So this is interest. I'm adding it on. More money I have to pay, 7%. So 100 plus 7 is 107%. And we write that as a decimal. So we do 107 over 100, which is 1.07. Okay, so there's our B value. And so we just substitute it in. Y equals, A was 10,000. And then our B value was 1.07 to the X. There you go. Let's look at another one, just getting lots of practice in here. Your friend deposits $300 in a savings account that earns 2% interest compounded annually. So again, keywords, compounded. So we know we're using our y equals a times b to the x. And then it says they deposit $300. So that's going to be my a value because that's what I deposited. And then it says it earns 2%. So then that means I have the original 100%. And it's earning, so that's adding on 2%. So that's 102%, which is the same thing as 102 over 100, because remember, percent. And when I divide that, I get 1.02. So my B value is 1.02. And I can write my equation. Y equals, A was 300 times B was 1.02 to the X. Make sure you don't forget your exponent on all of these, because otherwise it's not exponential if it doesn't have an exponent. Let's do one more just to make sure we're doing great here. So it says a student takes out a $15,000 compound interest loan at a 5.5% annual interest rate. Notice, by the way, these are all things that you're going to have to do as an adult. Savings account, car loan, and also for student loans, okay? Anyways, so we first notice again, it's compound. That means that I'm going to be using my y equals a times b to the x. And then it says that the loan is 15,000. Wait, I think that's 5,000. We'll just call it 5,000. It doesn't matter. Okay, so my loan is 5,000. And then they tell me that it's at a 5.5 annual interest rate. So remember, interest, like we talked about. So we have the original 100% that we always start with. And then interest is money that I have to pay. So it's adding on to the money that I'm going to have to pay back on this loan. So that's 5.5% interest. So 100 plus 5.5 is 105.5%, which is 105.5 over 100. And when you divide that, you get 1.055. There's my b value, 1.055. Then I can write my equation. Y equals, a value was 5,000 times b value 1.055 to the x. And there's my equation. Okay. All right, if you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to let me know. Remind Google Classroom, email, whatever you need. Have a great day, guys.